Thanks for joining us for CBN News Today. I'm Charlene Israel.
And I'm Ephraim Graham. In a rare primetime address Tuesday night, President Obama took his case for military action in Syria to the American people. He spoke of a possible diplomatic solution, but said the U.S. must be prepared to act if diplomacy fails. However, members of Congress and the American people still aren't ready to support a military strike. From the East Wing of the White House, President Obama addressed a skeptical nation.
My fellow Americans, tonight I want to talk to you about Syria, why it matters, and where we go from here.
On Tuesday, Syria agreed to a Russian-backed plan to hand over its chemical weapons stockpile to the international community. President Obama called the possibility of a diplomatic solution encouraging, but he said that if it fails, the U.S. military must take action.
It is beyond our means to right every wrong. But when, with modest effort and risk, we can stop children from being gassed to death and thereby make our own children safer over the long run, I believe we should act.
Still, diplomacy may be the only way the president can avoid an embarrassing defeat in both the House and Senate, where more lawmakers oppose a strike on Syria than support it. Congressional leaders have already agreed there will be no vote this week.
To a person, every GI I meet, every parent I meet, not one of them wants to get involved in the civil war. And it's not that we don't have sympathy, we just don't see a military or an American objective here.
Nearly two-thirds of Americans are opposed to a military strike. The U.S. involvement in both Iraq and Afghanistan still fresh on their minds. President Obama insisted this time would be different.
I will not put American boots on the ground in Syria. This would be a targeted strike to achieve a clear objective.
Still, following the president's speech to the nation, both the public and lawmakers remained unconvinced.
I think President Obama presented his case, but he did not convince me.
We have no plan for victory. In fact, to my mind, the Obama administration is arguing for stalemate. And I just can't see committing my son or your son or my daughter or your daughter to a war when our goal is stalemate.
And there are reports today the Russia-backed plan might already be in trouble. Russia is rejecting U.S. and French calls for a binding UN resolution calling for, quote, very severe consequences if Syria does not comply. Russia says it will not support any military action against Syria.
Americans across the country remember the victims killed 12 years ago today in the worst terrorist attacks in U.S. history. Ceremonies taking place at Ground Zero in New York, as well as the White House, the Pentagon, and at the Flight 93 National Memorial in Shanksville. On this 12th anniversary, many are volunteering their time to Goodwill to honor those who died. On the website 911day.org, thousands have pledged to perform a good deed. Meanwhile, New York's police commissioner says the threat of terror still exists.
Terrorism is as great, if not greater, today than it was before the World Trade Center was destroyed.
A candlelight memorial will also be held at New York's Ground Zero later this evening.
A powerful explosion has caused serious damage to Libya's foreign ministry building in the heart of Benghazi. This bombing comes on the one-year anniversary of the terrorist attack on the U.S. consulate in that Libyan city. Al-Qaeda terrorists stormed the U.S. post last September 11th, murdering the U.S. ambassador and 3 other Americans. In the days and weeks after that terrorist attack, the Obama administration insisted it was just a street protest that went bad, even after the evidence showed otherwise. 1 year later, none of the terrorists have been arrested or held accountable. National security correspondent Eli Lake writes in the Daily Beast, quote, from the beginning, Obama has treated the Benghazi attack as a criminal act and not an act of war. And when some special operations forces in October had the suspected culprits in their sights, no order to kill was given or to capture them. Political observers criticized former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton for failing to provide enough security at the consulate.
Major Nidal Hassan's attack at Fort Hood in 2009 was the worst mass shooting on a military base in U.S. history. But victims' families say it should be known as the worst terrorist attack since 9/11. George Thomas has that story.
Army Major Nidal Hassan admits to opening fire at Fort Hood Army Base and killing 13 people.
I went in line to see the doctor, and then that was when the shooting happened.
Hassan says it was all in an effort to stop U.S. soldiers from going to Afghanistan and killing his fellow Muslims. but the attack was tried as a case of workplace violence and not as an act of terror. Now 150 victims and their families are suing the U.S. government. They say the designation of workplace violence robbed them of long-term benefits and made them ineligible to receive the Purple Heart, an award given to those wounded or killed in combat.
I have to think about my children, I have to think about my wife, and I have to think about where I'm going to be in 30 years. Whether I'm going to be able to work, whether I'm going to be able to walk. I have to think about these things.
Senator Susan Collins plans to introduce a bill next week that would ensure the families get the compensation they deserve.
For the administration to persist in treating this as if it were an act of workplace violence is an absolute outrage and disrespectful to the many victims.
Military experts say the government really had no option but to try the case as workplace violence. The crime happened on a military base, so it had to face a court-martial. It would have to have been transferred to civil courts for a terror charge to be possible. Even so, the American Center for Law and Justice is also joining the victims' fight. They've sent a letter to both President Obama and Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel, demanding that the U.S. recognize the attack on Fort Hood for what it truly was, calling it, quote, an actual battlefield in the ongoing war against al-Qaeda. George Thomas, CBN News.
A new report says the NSA surveillance machine grew too big and too fast for anyone to understand. Newly declassified documents were released on Tuesday. They reveal that even senior lawyers and officials weren't sure how the system worked. The National Security Agency set the vast network of supercomputers, switches, and wiretaps in motion back in 2006. And every day, analysts snooped on Americans' phone records more than they were allowed. It took nearly 3 years for the government officials to figure out things had gone wrong, and they're still trying to figure out why. Still, the Obama administration is fending off lawsuits and a push in Congress to rein in the surveillance.
2 Colorado Democrats have been kicked out of office in a recall election over gun control laws. The 2 lawmakers had voted for limits on ammunition magazines and for expanded background checks on private gun sales. One of the now jobless Democrats was the Colorado Senate president. The National Rifle Association said the recall sent a clear message that lawmakers should protect gun rights and be accountable to their constituents, not to anti-gun billionaires. That was a swipe at New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg, who supported both of the ousted lawmakers.
The mayor of Minneapolis, Minnesota, is hoping to make his city a destination spot for gay couples in the Midwest. He's unveiled a new ad campaign. The message, come to Minnesota to get married. Minnesota began recognizing gay marriage August 1st. Minneapolis Mayor Archie Rybeck says his state's new status presents an opportunity, especially since gay marriage is not recognized in nearby states like Wisconsin.
This is an amazing state. But Wisconsin right now does not have one thing that we have in Minnesota, and that is equal rights.
Rybeck has a new ad campaign promoting his city to same-sex couples. So far, he's visited Madison, Wisconsin, and Chicago, Illinois. And he has plans to visit Colorado as well. But Rybeck's plan is facing some pushback because same-sex marriage is illegal in Wisconsin. Couples who leave to be married and then come back could face a $10,000 fine and 9 months in jail.
I think it really highlights how our government's hands are tied by the constitutional ban that we have. They're really limited in terms of the scope of decisions that they can do to recognize same-sex couples.
That law could come into play if couples try to file their state taxes jointly. Conservative group Wisconsin Family Action led the campaign back in 2006 that resulted in an amendment to the state's constitution, recognizing marriage as only between one man and one woman. In response to Mayor Rybeck's new campaign, the group's president, Julaine Appling, said in a statement, "The mayor of Minneapolis can come here and do whatever he chooses, just as we have ambassadors going to other states to try to woo business. But, quote, our law would not recognize any validity to those same-sex marriages performed in any other state." Right now, 13 states recognize gay marriage, while 35 states ban same-sex marriage.
Well, there was no political comeback for Anthony Weiner or Eliot Spitzer last night in New York. Spitzer, who was running for city comptroller, got 48% of the vote, losing to Scott Stringer, who got 52%. And in his attempt to run for mayor of New York, Weiner got roughly 5% of the votes in the Democratic primary, leaving him in 5th place and out of the race. Both politicians said they wanted to run again to seek forgiveness from their voters that they offended. Both lost major support due to sexual scandals while in office.
Leaders of Congress presented the Congressional Medal to the families of 4 girls killed in the 16th Street bombing in the church in Alabama 50 years ago. Carol Robertson, Addie Mae Collins, Cynthia Wesley, and Denise McNair were killed in the explosion of a bomb planted outside the church by white supremacists. The attack outraged the nation and helped to spur passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Past recipients of the medal include Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King Jr., and his wife, Coretta Scott King.
Coming up, the Christian town caught in the middle of Syria's civil war. Why its fate is symbolic of the church's fears for the future.
Today we're on a field trip to discover what inflation is doing to our paper money. In this hand is a $20 bill, and in this hand is a $20 U.S. gold coin. They used to have the same buying power, but how much can they buy today? In this first basket is what my $20 bill buys: milk, bread, peanut butter, and jelly. And here's what one $20 gold coin will buy: 6 baskets full, worth nearly $2,000, almost 100 times more food, simply by owning gold dollars instead of paper dollars. History shows that the gold coins have been the best way to beat the rising cost of living. So class, the moral is that unless you want to live on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in the future, you should turn some paper dollars into gold coins now. How and why is explained in a new book, The Great Debasement. Call the number below for a totally free copy. And that's the simple truth.
Help! If an emergency happened right now, you can have help at the push of a button with Medical Alert.
Remember when I took that fall, Mary?
Oh, yes, that was terrible.
Yes, it was.
Help!
And I thought, what if you hadn't been there? I ordered my Medical Alert the next day.
I can't describe how safe I feel now with my Medical Alert. You didn't know I was wearing it, did you?
Medical Alert is easy to install, waterproof, and covers you inside your home and out.
It helps me feel safe from fires, break-ins.
And of course, a Medical Alert. And if you don't have a home phone, don't worry. They have that covered.
There's always help at the push of a button. Don't wait till you need it.
Get Medical Alert for less than $1 a day. There are no long-term contracts. Order now and get your second button free. Call for your free brochure.
For your free Medical Alert system with second button free, call 800-575-8507.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
Syrian rebel fighters apparently executed 3 Christians fleeing the fighting in Malula this week. Hundreds of Christians held a funeral in Damascus for men who were cousins. Britain's Sky News reports the men were trying to escape the Christian town of Malula, which had been under attack by rebel troops. The men reportedly were killed by forces with the al-Qaeda-linked Jabhat al-Nur. Mourners say 2 of the victims had their throats cut and another was shot. Most of the mourners are also refugees from Malula, one of the oldest Christian communities in the world.
Dr. Andrew Parasilidi is editor and founder of almonitor.com. That's a Middle Eastern news site. He recently spoke with CBN's Gary Lane about the significance of the town of Malula and why Christians fear for their future.
Tell us a little bit about this historic village and the significance of it.
Well, it is a very significant village, Gary. It is considered to be one of the oldest Christian villages in the world and the oldest one in Syria. It is home to 2 very important monasteries called Taqwa and Sarkis. and the community there speaks Aramaic. That's the language of Jesus Christ, and it's one of the few places, if not the only place, in the Western world where that language is still spoken.
Do you think both sides of the Civil War could be using this town to manipulate public opinion?
I think so, and I think the overall situation here is one of great tragedy. It's tragedy for Syria, and it's a tragedy for the Christian community of Syria. The non-Islamist rebels have tried to show that they are trying to respect the key sites and heritage sites in the monasteries of Malula. Of course, the regime has responded to attacks there, and the bottom line is that Malula is paying a price for the war in Syria.
Well, we've heard some reports that these fighters, al-Nusra fighters, have occupied a church. They've destroyed part of it, even killed Christians. What are you hearing on that?
I haven't heard yet any confirmation of casualties or destruction, but I have seen the reports, and there is video footage of them entering the Tarkis monastery, and they've actually gotten some of the nuns who are there, there's a nunnery there, to say that they're being treated well. Again, as you mentioned at the beginning, this is a public relations issue for the rebels because they know this looks very bad to the West. As the Congress debates authorization for the use of force in Syria against the regime, many analysts tend to believe that as you weaken the regime, you also strengthen radical Islamists who are fighting the regime, who will have their say and are having their say in the so-called liberated areas of Syria in the north and elsewhere, where they're imposing Islamic rule. Many fear what will happen in Syria will be a replay of what happened in Iraq. And I'm sure, Gary, your viewers know well that the Christian community of Iraq, which also, like the Christian community in Syria, has played such an important role in the heritage and culture and the perceptions of tolerance in those countries, had to flee because they were targeted by radical Islamists as well after Saddam Hussein was deposed. We need to think of a way, whatever we do in Syria, to bring this war to a close. Over 100,000 Syrians have died in this war. Over 2 million are refugees. Every day that it goes on, more people suffer, and the Christian community is suffering along with the rest of Syria.
Okay, Dr. Andrew Parasolidi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Gary, for having me.
Up next, meet the Gouda nuns, 13 sisters who make 20,000 pounds of cheese.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
Announcing an important breakthrough in healthcare that can benefit everyone. If you or anyone you love needs affordable health insurance, regardless of a pre-existing medical condition, call Quick Insurance 123 today and get the immediate relief you deserve. Quick Insurance 123 was created to provide affordable health insurance to all uninsured Americans, with or without pre-existing conditions. This is not a discount card. This is a real insurance program that lets you choose from many affordable health plans, with access to doctors, hospitals, emergency services, and more. So call the number on your screen now and get the health coverage you need just for calling. As a special bonus, we'll send you a free prescription savings card that could save you up to 85% on your prescriptions. That's right, you could save up to 85% on your prescriptions just for calling. Call Quick Insurance 123 to find out how you can get affordable health insurance and receive your free prescription savings card just for calling. Don't wait. Getting a free quote is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Call today.
Well, it's a business model you won't see anywhere else. 13 nuns who make cheese, and they sell it out every year.
So, what is their secret ingredient? Heather Sells traveled to their monastery in Virginia to find out.
This is the heart of this cloistered Trappist nun community, gathering for worship and prayer 7 times a day, starting at 3:15 in the morning. And this is the cheese barn, where the 13 sisters at Our Lady of the Angels make 20,000 pounds of Gouda every year. Most of their $250,000 business is mail order, although some local shops drive out monthly for the cheese their customers crave.
The flavor's great. It's on the mild end in terms of intensity, but it's delicious and really versatile. You can use it for cooking, or you can just nosh it with salami and olives and bread.
When they started, the nuns knew nothing about how to make cheese. Today, they literally cannot keep up with the demand from food connoisseurs around the country.
It sort of sells itself. People get it as a gift. And they call and they say, could I order some of this cheese?
Sister Barbara is one of the original 6 who was sent by a large monastery in Massachusetts to start anew on this gorgeous piece of land near Charlottesville, Virginia. The goal, follow the centuries-old rules of St. Benedict by building a life based on prayer and engage in manual labor to support themselves. Happily for the sisters, the property they bought already featured a cheese-making facility.
We were so naive, we thought it'd be so simple. You have some of this equipment here, and you just get some milk and a few lessons and just make some cheese.
But the sisters persevered, and they got it right, really right. They allot 32 days a year to make the Gouda, and everyone pitches in. Sister Maria is the designated cheese cook. The 35-year-old from Spain must manipulate some 6,000 pounds of pasteurized milk with a little culture and rennet into several hundred wheels of cheese. It looks easy, but like any good recipe, it's all about precision, getting the correct temperature, cutting the curds at just the right moment, heating them, then draining the whey, and finally pressing the cheese. Over the years, the sisters have not only perfected their technique, they've never bungled a batch. That's almost unheard of. Sister Linda is sidelined from the cheesemaking with an injury right now, but says her fellow sisters' attention to detail is key.
A big part of it has been their openness to learning and their absolute dedication to doing it better.
The sisters say prayer is also a big part of their work, from making the cheese to shipping it out.
While I'm doing it, I'm really praying for the people who are gonna eat that cheese. I mean, I know every family, every person have problems.
For every 5 cheese orders that come in the mail, at least 1, maybe out of every 4, 1 will have a request for prayers.
Prayer is also the reason the nuns say they won't grow their business.
People will come in and say, well, you sold out last year, so you're going to make more next year, aren't you? The priority is not the cheese. That's not why we're here.
What is happening here? A seeking after the Lord that is visibly discernible.
It's fun to see the nuns, and they're so, kind and calm and mellow. It sort of slows you down a little bit.
People come to the door, come to buy cheese. They always want to know a little bit about our way of life, so we tell them. And then we ask them if they'd like to stop in the chapel for a moment.
When they're not in the chapel or making the cheese, the nuns do admit to eating it, often. And there is a preferred method.
My favorite way to have it is on a piece of toast for breakfast. If you toast a piece of bread so that the bread is kind of crispy, and then you put a couple thin slices of cheese on, put it in the microwave for 25 seconds.
So what's next for the sisters? No cheddar or Havarti, they say. It's strictly Gouda. As for their numbers, it's clear a new generation is needed sometime soon. But these women believe if they remain true to their calling, God will replenish their ranks in His time.
We are here together because God called us here. One way or another, we all followed what we perceived to be God's call to us individually. We never knew each other before, so it's not a coincidence, but part of a larger plan that remains a mystery.
It is a beautiful, holy mystery that's unfolding here as the sisters seek out God and find ways to minister through simple 2-pound wheels of cheese. Reporting in Crozet, Virginia, Heather Sells, CBN News.
When you're driving along and your cell phone rings, do your eyes instantly go off the road? Then you need to get a grip. Hi, David Jones here with the new GripGo, the most versatile hands-free mount that will instantly grip any phone for safe driving. Just attach the suction cup to your windshield or dash, and GripGo grabs your phone ultra fast. Then it peels right off. And don't worry, there's no sticky residue left behind. The 360-degree pivoting mount allows you to always get the perfect viewing angle. It's even strong enough to grab and hold this expensive smartphone out the window. Yet it comes right off with ease. That's the advantage of GripGo. You can get the amazing GripGo with dashboard mount for only $14.95. We'll send you a second kit free. Just pay separate processing and handling. Get 2 complete GripGo systems for just $14.95.
To order GripGo for $14.95 plus processing and handling, call 1-800-709-5259 or order online at getgripgo.com.
Jim is 38, mortgage, married, 3 great kids. He wants to protect his family with a $500,000 term life insurance policy. What do you think it'll cost him? $100 a month? 60? 40? Actually, none of the above. Jim can get a $500,000 policy from a highly rated insurer for under $19 a month. His secret? SelectQuote. SelectQuote is impartial. They'll comparison shop the pick of insurance companies like these to give you a choice of your best prices. SelectQuote has great savings on term life for women, too. Jim's wife, Deidre, can get a $500,000 policy for under $16 a month. SelectQuote has helped make term life insurance affordable for hundreds of thousands of people since 1985. How about you? Just call this number or go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
There is a new generation that doesn't remember the terrors of 9/11.
That's right. Middle school age students and under were either too young or not even born when the towers came crashing down. So how do we share the story with them? The Stephen Siller Tunnel to Towers Foundation has set up a mobile exhibit. They plan to travel the country to show students what happened 12 years ago. The mobile exhibit is the first of its kind. Pittsburgh got a sneak preview of the exhibit last Sunday, but the official unveiling happens today near Fort Bragg, North Carolina. The exhibit specifically sets out to honor the first responders who gave their lives to share with others, to save others. Students can walk through the exhibit and view genuine artifacts while learning of our country's history. All the collections were donated to the foundation by New York City and fire departments. It's pretty neat.
Hard to believe a generation
Never
doesn't
forget.
know.
Never forget. 12 years
Indeed.
ago today. Well, that's going to do it for now on CBN News Today. And you can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com.
And tell us what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. Hope you join us again next time. Have a wonderful Wednesday, everybody.
If you had a choice between going bald and a full head of hair, which would you choose? Advances in medical science have resulted in the world's first and only permanent solution to hair loss.
Yes!
You wash it, you cut it. It's your own real, naturally growing hair. When it comes to hair restoration, no one in the world has more experience than Bosley. The results look completely natural and are affordable on nearly any budget. But the entire process can't be explained in 60 brief seconds. So to find out more about this clinically proven and permanent solution to hair loss, call now to receive your free no-obligation information kit. It'll answer all of your questions about hair loss and hair restoration. Plus, we'll also send you this $250 gift certificate just for calling. Every day you wait, you're losing more hair. So don't put it off any longer. You owe it to yourself to find out the facts. Choose hair. Choose Bosley.
Call 800-868-9957. That's 800-868-9957.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.